The investigation continues after a shooting on Highway 99. A complaint is settled in the case of a young boy who died after choking on a hot dog. And we preview the second half of the Democratic debate happening later tonight. This is 17 News at Noon. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Fisher. We begin with breaking news of a massive traffic jam on Highway 58. Here's the reason why. These pictures were sent to us from 17 News viewers. CHP says that big rig is stuck on westbound 58 and unable to drive onto the on-ramp to the 99. At last check, traffic is backed up to at least the Chester Avenue off-ramp that is about a mile long. Caltrans is removing barriers to allow the truck through. No word on how long that will take. In the meantime, you can download our 17 News app to receive breaking news alerts sent directly to your phone. An early morning shooting left a man wounded in McFarland. It happened at around 5:30 this morning. CHP says someone called 911 to report a car had been swerving on the 99. When McFarland police arrived where the car stopped, they found two men inside, both with gunshot wounds. No word on where the men were shot. CHP says officers are still on scene investigating, but say they should wrap up momentarily. New information about a body discovered weeks ago in a silo in Shafter. The coroner has released the man's identity. He's 26-year-old Alan Jeffrey of Bakersfield. Farm workers found his body in a silo on Zerker Road back on June 5th. They were trying to use this silo, but it was blocked. The coroner has performed an autopsy, but the cause and manner of death are pending further studies. It was supposed to be a fun day at the movies, but quickly turned tragic. This morning, the family of the Bakersfield boy who choked on a hot dog at Reading Cinemas settled with the theater. It all happened in October 2014. You're taking a look at surveillance video of the 14-year-old Jacob Mindoloa and his grandfather in the lobby buying snacks. Minutes later, Jacob choked on a hot dog inside the theater at the Valley Plaza. The family's attorney, Tim Osborne, says Jacob's grandfather and two other men trained in CPR tried to help Jacob, but employees refused to turn on the lights, and a manager didn't know how. Today, a settlement was reached. The terms are confidential, but the attorneys for the boys' family says they're pleased with the outcome. Well, tax revenue from the first quarter of 2019 is in. Now the city of Bakersfield must decide how to spend it. 17's Karen Wall was at a meeting last night where the Measuring Citizens Committee gave their input and ensured the city stayed true to its priorities.
Measure N funds are in, and good news. The 1-cent sales tax increase is set to bring in $1 million more this year than originally expected. For next year, it's predicted to bring in $3.85 million more. So where will this money go? The city recommends most of it go into the cash reserve, an emergency fund for financial stability. That's all of this year's $1 million and 3.3 of next year's $3.85 million.
While the reserve isn't a bad idea, I agree with it wholeheartedly. It's great fiscal responsibility.
But
again, I don't know that the voters, when they voted for the tax measure, wasn't for a rainy day fund, but more to take care of the immediate problems that are facing the community.
Bakersfield Homeless Shelter CEO Lewis Gill also made his case, asking for part of the extra revenue to help with homelessness.
We have gone from somewhere around 12,000 meals a month to 17,000 meals a month. I ask that you consider allocating a portion of this windfall to the need that exists today.
What committee members did agree on, $250,000 more to fund the police academy, a facility to be built on California Avenue that the city says will allow BPD to hire 100 new officers in 3 years as promised.
The city is expected to make a final decision on this budget this Friday. I'm Karen Wall, 17 News.
The Supreme Court tosses a citizenship question from the 2020 census. It's one of two big decisions coming on the final day before a summer break. Chief Justice John Roberts joining the liberal wing of the High Court in ruling 5-4 to block the controversial census question, finding the Trump administration's explanation for adding it insufficient. Meantime, Roberts joining the court's conservative wing with a 5-4 vote on gerrymandering, ruling the federal courts have no say on voting districts drawn for political purposes, letting stand gerrymandered voting maps in Maryland and North Carolina. Taking aim at Joe Biden, a spokesperson for the former vice president's campaign says he may be the target at tonight's Democratic debate. And Tracy Potts is in Miami with more.
But over the course of the next 2 hours,
candidates confident after last night's debate.
People saw that I can handle my own, that I went in there with 9 other people on the debate stage, and that I had a great debate night.
Aiming their message at working-class voters.
You should elect somebody who's been in the foxhole with you the last 20 or 30 years.
New York Mayor Bill de Blasio pushing the party to go after voters in Republican states.
My message was, hey, we better be willing to take bold stances, not be looking over our shoulder all the time.
The biggest threat to the security of the United States is Donald Trump, and there's no question.
Washington Governor Jay Inslee with wild applause after naming President Trump as America's biggest threat.
Ready, Congressman.
They also turned on each other. Julian Castro challenged Beto O'Rourke to support making illegal border crossing a civil penalty, not a crime.
Yeah, absolutely we were under attack, but that's okay.
10 more candidates appear tonight, led by frontrunner Joe Biden. His spokeswoman tells me he'll probably be a target, but he's ready.
Debate prep was fun, but it was also really, really drilled down, and I think we're ready.
The stage is set for part 2 just hours from now. Tracy Potts, NBC News, Miami.
And just a reminder, Night 2 kicks off in about 6 hours. You can watch the debate right here on TV 17 starting at 6 p.m. We'll have a complete recap of the debate on 17 News at sunrise tomorrow morning. President Trump has arrived in Japan to meet with world leaders amid a flurry of international crises and tense trade negotiations. NBC's Keir Simmons reports from Osaka.
President Trump arriving in Osaka in a rainstorm this morning as dark clouds loom around the world, including the Iran crisis. Before heading overseas, the president talking tough.
And we're going to be meeting with a lot of different countries, many of whom have been taking advantage of the United States, but not so much anymore.
Mr. Trump bristling at questions about whether he would warn Russian President Vladimir Putin against interfering in U.S. elections. Osaka marks the first time Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin will be face-to-face since Special Counsel Robert Mueller concluded his investigation into Russian meddling. And just days after it was revealed that Mueller will testify publicly before Congress next month. En route, President Trump picking a fight with India for setting high import tariffs. Unacceptable, he tweeted. He'll meet India's Prime Minister Modi this weekend. The president's packed schedule begins with Japan's Prime Minister Abe, perhaps his closest ally on the world stage. North Korea expected to be a key talking point. The president later sits down with President Putin. Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, all likely to come up. And his meeting with President Xi of China will be crucial. But will it help ease the US-China trade dispute? Iran will be central to conversations with leaders from Saudi Arabia and Turkey to Europe. The president promising no end to the tough sanctions on Iran.
Iran can do whatever they want. It's just fine. I have plenty of time. But they have a country that's in economic distress. It's an economic disaster right now.
This promises to be another tough few days for international diplomacy. And already a flurry of diplomacy, the leader of China and the leader of South Korea meeting here in Osaka and saying afterwards that they do believe that North Korea still wants to negotiate and is committed to denuclearization. Meanwhile, reports that President Xi of China and President Trump are set to announce some kind of a deal on trade, delaying further tariffs. But of course, this is the G20. This is President Trump. Anything can happen. Keir Simmons, NBC News, Osaka, Japan.
A popular recreation area on the Central Coast could see some major changes. Environmentalists have raised concern over protecting the ecosystem at Oceano Dunes State Park. Right now, coastal permits allow 1,000 RV campers to stay overnight at the park every night. But the Coastal Commission wants to cut that number down to 700. 1,100 acres are currently open to the public. It could be reduced to just 450. Some say this could hurt the local economy. The South County Chamber of Commerce say the change would be detrimental to businesses. The Coastal Commission will vote on July 11th in San Luis Obispo. Welcome back. A bubble of hot air trapping Europe is causing temperatures to soar into the triple digits and putting residents, summer travelers, and even players at the Women's World Cup all at risk. NBC's Kelly Kobiella has more from Paris.
This morning, France is waking up to a second day of dangerous heat, with temperatures expected to soar into the triple digits in many places. The fountains have turned into dipping pools for people looking for a little relief. The record-setting heat wave is spreading across Europe. Rome is on red alert today, along with 16 other Italian cities. American tourists trying not to let it ruin their vacations.
A couple of changes of clothes, a couple of showers, we're managing.
Parts of Germany and Spain are literally on fire. One Spanish meteorologist warning hell is coming. A mass of hot African air, the Saharan bubble, is pushing temperatures to the extremes. Parts of France could hit 114 tomorrow. With no air conditioning in many European homes, they're opening cooling centers and handing out water, hoping to avoid a repeat of a heat wave in 2003 when tens of thousands died across Europe. No one is used to the warmer weather. On soccer fields, it can feel even hotter, as I found out while trying to learn some skills with the Wake Forest players in Paris last week for the Women's World Cup. Oh, shoot. The U.S. team will have to beat France and the heat tomorrow to stay in the hunt.
Of course, it's going to have an impact. Players will cramp, they'll get dehydrated, but this is also something that they're preparing for.
Thankfully, they won't face the brutal midday sun.
The women's game kicks off at 9 o'clock tomorrow night, so the temperatures should be a little lower, more like high 80s. Kelly Kobiella, NBC News, Paris.
Welcome back to your 17 Business Watch, and stocks going back into the green today. It is up. The Dow Jones is up 19 points right now. S&P 500 up 27, and the NASDAQ up 57. And checking oil prices, West Texas Intermediate is at $59.22 a barrel, and Midway Sunset is at $65.23 a barrel. There is an important safety recall today for Fisher-Price play yards. Fisher-Price is recalling the inclined sleeping accessory included with its ultralight day and night play yards due to safety concerns. More than 70,000 of these play yards were sold here in the U.S. Infant deaths have been reported using other inclined sleep products after the infants rolled from their back to their stomach or side while unrestrained. The inclined sleeper accessory is the only portion of the product that's being recalled. Consumers should immediately stop using the inclined sleeper accessory and contact Fisher-Price for a refund or voucher. Consumers can continue to use the play yard portion of the product without the inclined sleeper accessories. Good information right there. Welcome back. As the July 4th holiday approaches, concern increases for our four-legged friends. 17's Tabitha Mills shares the importance of microchipping your pet ahead of the loud and sometimes terrifying holiday for animals.
It's not only important to microchip your pet, but to make sure the information tied to your pet's microchip is up to date. It's the surest way to locate your furry family member if they get lost on the 4th of July. The loud noise of fireworks, the flash of light and colors can be unnerving for some animals. Julie Johnson, executive director of the Bakersfield Animal Care Center, says you should take steps ahead of the 4th of July to keep your animals safe. Talk to your vet about ways to keep your pets calm during celebrations and take the vet's suggestions seriously. Make sure your pet is microchipped, and if so, make sure the contact information tied to your pet's chip is current and up to date.
Microchips are not a GPS, so it doesn't track anything. We're just trying to get your pets back to you, make sure they're safe. We're going to help you update your information. We're going to make sure your information's current, because the biggest thing we see is we get a lot of animals that have a microchip, but the contact information is no longer valid. And that makes it really hard because we can't contact you to get your pet back to you.
If you're not sure if your pet's microchip is up to date, you can take your pet to any city shelter or veterinarian in town. There you can have your pet's chip scanned, and you will be given the information needed to update your contact information.
Some good information right there. If your pet doesn't have a chip, the Bakersfield Animal Care Center on South Mount Vernon Avenue will host Microchip Mania on Saturday between 8 a.m. and noon. The first 125 people will receive free microchips. Pet Matchmaker Rescue is also holding a free microchipping event, and more information can be found on the nonprofit's Facebook page. Well, it is a big push to give a star to a man who's brought so much light to the Bakersfield community. David Marcus is a big fan of Centennial High School sports and is often seen around town supporting local charities. He's battling cancer for the 7th time, but keeps his positivity and faith Marcus has been nominated for a star in front of the Fox Theater in downtown Bakersfield. A GoFundMe is underway to raise the $5,000 for the star, and as of last check, $3,100 has been raised. You can find that GoFundMe link on our Facebook page.